था कि मतलब अब जो सेविंग्स है आपकी एक्स अमाउंट वो इंडिया में ज्यादा लास्ट करेगी, सिंगापुर में तो आपको पता ही है कि कितना महंगाई है। तो तो फिर इट वाज लाइक अ नो ब्रेनर, मैंने कहा चलो इंडिया चलते हैं, घर पे रहेंगे, थोड़ा पैसे भी बचेंगे और थोड़ा फ्रीडम भी रहेगी, मतलब कर भी सकते हैं, प्ले अराउंड भी कर सकते हैं। तो उसमें
Welcome to a new episode of chaipekharcha. And today we have a very special guest, a good friend who's delved into something that we all longed for, but he's taken the bold step. I'm referring to entrepreneurship. The of the regular host, it's me and Ishan again. And our guest today is Dhruv Mehra. Dhruv, uh, actually, let me not introduce you. Let me ask you for a brief intro, and then we will bounce off that. So if you could just tell us about your journey so far.
so that's always the hard part. But I'm Dhruv. Right now I'm based out of Delhi, India. But I met Siddharth and few others in Singapore when I was working with Facebook. I've stayed in Singapore for nearly 5 years, and the like that whole 5 years was with Facebook and Meta. I was looking at products like Facebook Marketplace, Instagram Shop when I was at Meta. Um, and yeah, somewhere around early last year, like early 2023, is when I moved back to India. And since then, I'm building my own startup, which is called Pipe, based out of India itself. And yeah, that's a little bit about me. Do you want me to like highlight something in particular, Siddharth?
Sir. So let's specifically highlight the part where you chose to become an NRI. So was it only because Facebook came calling? Yeah, was it
Yeah,
something else?
so I had no intention of going abroad. And I was actually doing fairly well in India. Fairly well as in like I was at a good job. I was a machine learning engineer at a company, working on like good technologies, learning new things. Apart from that, I had a very good friend circle in Bangalore. Bangalore back then was, I think, a little bit more pleasant than what it is today. So I wasn't particularly looking to move abroad. I was actually just looking to work for a good company, and that's when I had offers from like Google, a few other companies, and yeah, and Facebook. Facebook particularly called me initially, like back then during my first call, they were planning to hire me for US, and like it was a added bonus that it was US because I thought like why not? It will be a good exposure, and working with Facebook definitely was like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And that's when it happened, like that's how it happened actually. And just for that, just for the Facebook, I moved to Singapore, like although the conversation initially was for US role, but later on they said that is it okay if we initially start you with Singapore and then maybe move to US, because my whole team was in US. But then like I liked Singapore, Singapore was closer to India, so I never really like followed up on that. And as it worked out that I happened to be in Singapore, and the plans also changed that maybe let's grow team in Singapore. There was like a whole back and forth about me not moving to US and like choosing to stay in Singapore. So that's how it happened. Otherwise, there was a high chance that I might have moved to US, and like yeah, maybe to London as well. There was a time, but yeah, I was never like a fan of changing countries much, and I was never like against India or like settling in India. I've seen like my friends doing great things in India, earning shitloads of money, living a good social life. So I was like pretty fond of that. Secondly, my parents were in India. They were very clear about not moving abroad, because for them it was like कि बुढ़ापे में अब कहाँ मतलब बाहर लेके जाओगे. So I was very clear कि ठीक है, even if I go abroad I'll come back to India. Maybe like even in future like it will still hold true कि हो सकता है आगे चल के if there is a good opportunity I might go to that country, explore, spend few years, but I feel कि I'll still come back to India, and like I would like to live in India until it becomes like unlivable.
That's an interesting part, and I actually wanted to delve into the finance part, but आपने ये topic छेड़ा है, तो let's go deeper there. एक जनरल नोशन है कि एनआरआई बन के इंसान पैसा ज्यादा कमाता है, इसलिए मोस्टली एनआरआई बनता है कि आप अपॉर्चुनिटी में भी ज्यादा है और पैसा तो डेफिनेटली ज्यादा है.
Yeah.
But your perspective, from the way you have phrased it, you think it's not much different. Tell me if that's how you're looking at it and
Yeah.
why.
So, and it could be a very personal thing, but for me, I have seen that, yeah, I'm a very ambitious person in general. I like to like grow, do things which are like above average, and it might come across as if I'm like just blowing my own horn or whatever the saying is. But this is what I have learned. I like to strive for excellence, and I've seen that it doesn't matter like which geography you are in if you're trying to do that. In India, I have friends those who are making like north of $300,000 while being in India, because I think post COVID things have changed quite a lot. Companies have started hiring in India, because of which like the other companies existing, or what do you call them, incumbent players of Indian startup ecosystem, they have started paying more. Fundings have gone up. Like now, people have realized that building in India, you could build for the world. So now the funding, like imagine that you're getting like $5 million as a startup in India, then you will pay your employees, right? Like you won't stop. Like it won't stop you from paying your employees as much a startup in Silicon Valley would. So that way, I've seen that if you are interesting enough or interested enough in a particular thing, and you want to actually excel, do good, then I think startups recognize this. Many other companies in India recognize this, and they pay you. They like compensate you accordingly. So money wise, I can't say about like an average salary package. I'm sure there like US would be better. But if you pick your battles right, and especially in the area I am in, like I'm very much in machine learning, AI, I like computers. So I feel there in that particular field, at least, the payment, the compensation is not very different from India versus US, at least for like the top 1 percentile.
Yeah, so this I agree with also, and this is something I have also been trying to uh, pose for. And you, if you've not checked the episode, we made episode on reverse brain drain where we
Yeah,
covered some of these topics. It,
yeah,
uh, so now that you have, again, we'll just take this lane. You've touched upon startups and how startups are paying well. Now you are a CEO, founder of a startup in India. Uh, Tell us something about that, because after you finished your role in Meta, you were still in Singapore, and then you made a decision you want to come back to India and then do a startup instead of being in Singapore.
so
That's the first. Go on.
yeah, sorry, if you have another part to it, please go for it.
नहीं, उसका ही फॉलो अप ये है कि अपने जब ये डिसाइड किया कि इंडिया में जाके स्टार्टअप करना है, what were your initial considerations in terms of, did you think of getting funding, या did you think कि दूसरा अप्रोच करते हैं पहले, first day
Yeah.
say we'll start charging for whatever I'm making, yeah, start it as a service company then convert to product. But elaborate on that also.
No, that's interesting. So, like, this is around end of 2022. I was very much pushed to like move to US because my whole team was in US. And although as much as I love US, because of my parents and few other reasons, I just did not, and I could not move to US. So it was very clear for me ki, in Singapore also, like you would know, like in every company, you grow across levels. So in my particular role and my particular department, I was hitting the bar, like I was hitting the ceiling. Beyond it, if you have to grow, you have to move to US. Otherwise, like look for another company in Singapore. So I was in that mindset anyways. And I was looking at Indian startup ecosystem. इंडिया में उस टाइम पे D2C बूम था, अभी भी चल रहा है. Like Mamaearth, Boat, these kind of companies became like flag bearer of it. उसके अलावा भी there is a whole long tail of such companies who are making like 200 300 crores. And I was in this thing कि यार यहाँ सिंगापुर में तो बात बन नहीं रही है कुछ. Like I had no idea like how to do a business in Singapore, to be honest. some people tell me कि maybe I could have tried that could have been better, but I had no idea कि अपने कहाँ पता था कि स्टार्टअप कैसे करना है। तो मेरा माइंडसेट ये था कि इंडिया चलते हैं, इंडिया चल के कुछ करेंगे। जॉब वॉब्स का मतलब हैविंग वर्कड एट फेसबुक फॉर लाइक 5 years और उससे पहले भी, तो आई हैड लाइक सम बिट ऑफ सेविंग्स। आई थॉट कि ठीक है, मतलब अब नहीं तो फिर कब। प्लस आई वाज सिंगल, आई वाज अनमैरिड बैक देन, तो लाइक कि ये अब तो शादी करा देंगे घर वाले, तो अगर रिस्क लेना है तो अभी लेके देख लेते हैं। तो ये सारी चीजें एक साथ चल रही थी कि सिंगापुर यूएस में बात बन नहीं रही थी, इंडिया आने का मन भी था। और ऐसा भी था कि चलो स्टार्टअप का इतना सही लोग कर ही रहे हैं, तो हम भी ट्राई करके देख लेते हैं। तो इस माइंडसेट के साथ मैं इंडिया मूव कर गया था। एंड आई मूव्ड इंडिया प्रीटी लाइक, जैसे जब फेसबुक के साथ टेन्योर खत्म हुआ उसके आई थिंक विद इन अ मंथ और मंथ एंड हाफ मैं मूव कर गया था इंडिया। तो मेरा वो तो क्लियर था कि इंडिया जाना है। और ये भी था कि मतलब अब जो सेविंग्स है आपकी एक्स अमाउंट, वो इंडिया में ज्यादा लास्ट करेगी, सिंगापुर में तो आपको पता ही है कि कितना महंगाई है। तो मैं, तो फिर इट वाज लाइक अ नो ब्रेनर, मैंने कहा चलो इंडिया चलते हैं, घर पे रहेंगे, थोड़ा पैसे भी बचेंगे और थोड़ा फ्रीडम भी रहेगी, मतलब कर भी सकते हैं, प्ले अराउंड भी कर सकते हैं। तो उस माइंड सेट के साथ आया था मैं इंडिया। जब मैं आया था इनिशियली तब तो मैं ऐसे काफी पम्प्ड अप था कि, एंड दैट्स लाइक द इकोसिस्टम पंप्स यू अप एक्चुअली, कि लाइक फेसबुक ऐसा like non-India Facebook employee coming back who has worked on AI. This was back then कि like कुछ चैट जीपीटी का सब क्रेज चल रहा था, तो हमने बोला कि ठीक है हम भी करते हैं। तो माय फर्स्ट स्टार्टअप वाज, वी वर बिल्डिंग नॉट रिलेटेड टू एआई बट वी वर बिल्डिंग समथिंग कॉल्ड अ क्रिएटर्स मार्केट प्लेस, कि इन्फ्लुएंसर्स कैसे अपना अफिलिएट मार्केटिंग कर सकते हैं। तो बहुत सही था, इन्वेस्टर्स ऐसे रीच आउट करते थे कि लाइक लिंक्डइन प्रोफाइल के बेसिस पे उनको, इन्वेस्टर्स को लाइक दे, टू बी ऑनेस्ट लाइक दे डोंट नो कि क्या बनाएगा आदमी, बट दे लुक एट द प्रोफाइल, इफ द प्रोफाइल लुक्स प्रॉमिसिंग देन दे रीच आउट टू यू। तो उनके साथ बात करते थे, बढ़िया। वी वर वेरी पम्प्ड अप कि हाँ चलो ये तो लाइक वीसी फंडिंग भी मिल जाएगी, अब स्टार्टअप करते हैं। देन वी एक्चुअली स्टार्टेड डूइंग द बिजनेस एंड वी रियलाइज कि ये मतलब बहुत बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस हैं, कि वी वर लाइक नॉट इवन स्क्रैचिंग द सर्फेस, हम तो बस अपना खुद ही खुश हो रहे थे कि ये बढ़िया मजा आएगा। बट लाइक वेरी चैलेंजिंग कि लाइक वी रियलाइज कि ऐसा बेसिक बेसिक चीज है कि क्रिएटर्स चाहते ही नहीं है बेचना। लाइक फॉर एग्जाम्पल कि ब्यूटी केयर में ही ये चीजें बिक रही हैं, लाइक हमें पता ही नहीं था कि ऐसे कैटेगरीज भी है प्रोडक्ट की, ब्यूटी केयर में ज्यादा सामान बिकता है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स में क्रिएटर्स नहीं बेचते इतना, रिव्यू ज्यादा करते हैं। तो इस टाइप की इंसाइट्स पता ही नहीं थी, फिर जब हम करने बैठे तब समझ में आया। पर इन्वेस्टर से बात हुई तो इन्वेस्टर्स रियलाइज लाइक दैट्स व्हेन वी लर्न कि ये सारी जो वेव थी क्रिएटर्स इकोनॉमी वाली, ये 2021 में थी, तब अंधा इन्वेस्टमेंट हो रहा था, अब लोग केयरफुल हो गए हैं। तो हमने कहा अरे ये तो मतलब ये चीजें तो पता ही नहीं थी। तो वी कुड नॉट डू एनीथिंग, वी ट्राइड रनिंग दैट बिजनेस विदाउट एनी वीसी फंडिंग। वी हैड अराउंड लाइक 1000 मंथली एक्टिव यूजर्स, बट उसमें ये था कि वी कुड मेक सम मनी बट वी वर नॉट इवन लाइक ब्रेकिंग इवन, लाइक ब्रेक इवन से भी बहुत दूर थे हम लोग। एंड वी हैड नो आइडिया कि हाउ डू वी स्केल इट। तो फिर वो देयर वी टुक अ कॉल कि वी हैड टू शट इट डाउन, विल डू समथिंग एल्स। और VC, although we could not raise funds, but we had some soft commitments from VCs. Soft commitments ये होता है कि वो लोग बोल देते हैं कि हाँ ठीक है हम लोग रेज करेंगे, इफ यू वांट टू लाइक गो फॉर इट देन ठीक है, हम बात करके देखते हैं कि इफ वी कैन लाइक एक्चुअली मेक यू एन ऑफर। बट हम लोग खुद ही कन्विंस नहीं हो रहे थे आइडिया से, तो हम लोगों ने VC फंडिंग अभी ली नहीं। uh, उसके बाद सेकंड चीज, फिर जब वो बंद करी तो फिर मैंने मेरा जो को फाउंडर था वो चला गया, क्योंकि ही वाज रनिंग आउट ऑफ मनी, सो लाइक कि चलो मैं थोड़ा जॉब वॉब ढूंढ लेता हूँ। तो फिर मैंने सोचा कि मैं ही अकेला बचा हूँ तो क्या काम करें, तो फिर आई स्टार्टेड वर्किंग ऑन एआई। तो अभी जो मेरा काम है दैट्स बेसिकली एन ऑटोमेशन प्लेटफॉर्म विच यूजेस एआई एजेंट्स। तो कोई भी आपके कॉम्प्लेक्स वर्कफ्लोज हैं विच आर लाइक नॉट पॉइंट ए टू बी, बट जिसमें भी थोड़ा बैक एंड फोर्थ होता है, दोज काइंड ऑफ प्रोसेसेस यू कैन ऑटोमेट थ्रू आवर प्लेटफॉर्म। इट्स कॉल्ड पाइप। तो फिर हमने वो ट्राई किया, बट उसपे फिर बाय दिस टाइम आई हैड दिस अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि वीसी मनी, दिस इज अगेन बेस्ड ऑन माय कॉन्वर्जेशंस मोस्टली, एंड वी हैड लाइक कपल ऑफ राउंड्स ऑफ कॉन्वर्जेशंस की लाइक, जैसे एक तो फर्स्ट राउंड तो आपको ये होता है कि आपने किसी ऐसे इन्वेस्टर से बात करी, देन दिल लाइक टेक यू फॉरवर्ड, फिर उसके बाद 2-3 राउंड होंगे। तो वी हैड कॉन्वर्जेशंस टिल पार्टनर एंड समटाइम्स वी गॉट रिजेक्टेड मल्टीपल टाइम्स टू। समटाइम्स इट वाज कि हाँ चलो ठीक है लेट्स सी कि विल वेट इट आउट फॉर सम टाइम। तो उन सब चीज़ों से मुझे पता चला कि इन्वेस्टमेंट जो है, अगर हम किसी से लेते हैं VC इन्वेस्टमेंट, देन दैट ऑल्सो बिकम्स अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, लाइक देन यू बिकम आंसरेबल टू VCs। So for my second stint, because I was mostly dabbling with technology and looking for use cases, I thought I'll rather like hold on to the VC investment for now. until I have a product market fit, or until I know like what I'm doing. So I started mostly offering AI automation as a service. If your company needs an automation, any kind of automation, um, let me like do it for you. So we started building those things. उससे थोड़ा खर्चा भी चल जाता था, प्लस थोड़ा इंडस्ट्री का आइडिया भी लग जाता था कि मतलब बैंकिंग में क्या चल रहा है. लाइक वी वर्कड विद मीडिया एंड प्रेस एजेंसीज, वी वर्कड विद ऑडियो प्रोसेसिंग कंपनीज, वी वर्कड विद दीज इंडिया में एनबीएफसीज होते हैं, नॉन बैंकिंग फाइनेंशियल कंपनीज. तो उससे थोड़ा आइडिया भी लग गया कि अच्छा कि एनबीएफसीज में देयर इज अ लाइक अ मैसिव डिमांड कि लाइक प्रेसिंग नीड, प्लस दे हैव मनी टू पे फॉर इट. Press and media agencies में it's not such a pressing need, plus they would rather spend that money on hiring people. तो ये सारी चीजें थोड़ा market का idea लग गया. So then I slowly and I actually I'm still in that phase where I'm converting that services business into more of a productized business, or like a product business. So अभी तक it's mostly bootstrap, and carefully we are like choosing not to jump into VC investment until we have a strong conviction. क्योंकि फिर यही है कि अभी हम ही लोग इतना यूजर्स के साथ टाइम स्पेंड करते हैं, फिर एक और एक्स्ट्रा वो आ जाएंगे कि आंसरेबल एंटिटी, कि नाउ वी हैव टू रिपोर्ट टू द वीसीज टू. प्लस उसके बाद फिर वो अलग फाइनेंशियल लेगवर्क अलग स्टार्ट हो जाता है कि यू हैव टू गेट अ सीए हु विल लाइक, वी स्टिल हैव अ सीए बट उसमें फिर और ज्यादा पेपर वर्क बढ़ जाता है कि आप वो जीएसटी फाइल करो, ये करो, वो करो. तो वी वर लाइक कि ठीक है, अभी पहले थोड़ा अपना सॉर्ट आउट कर लेते हैं अंटिल वी हैव लाइक अ स्टडी, लाइक इसमें एक टर्म कहते हैं मंथली रिकरिंग रेवेन्यू. So I've decided that until we have a strong monthly recurring revenue, I think I would avoid going for a VC round.
एक एक क्वेश्चन है यार इसके अराउंड. आई एम श्योर a lot of listeners who are trying entrepreneurship will have this. कि how did you go about, for pipe specifically, how did you go about acquiring customers? You mentioned कि अलग अलग domain से customer थे. वो कैसे लाया आपने, मार्केटिंग कैसे किया?
तो ये जैसे हमारा
और
बिजनेस है, मोस्टली B2B बिजनेस. And to be very honest,
right?
I'm very new to this. तो अभी like as we are speaking, I'm still learning how to do this. मतलब ये डेली का चैलेंज है कि अब आई हैव बिकम मोर ऑफ अ सेल्समैन देन एन इंजीनियर. तो मतलब मैं डेली सेल्स नेविगेटर पे बैठ के ऐसे लीड्स ढूंढता हूँ और ये सब चीजें करता हूँ. बट इनिशियल फ्यू कॉन्टैक्ट्स जो मिले, एंड आई डोंट थिंक लाइक देयर इज एनी अदर वे अराउंड दैट, वो थे पर्सनल कॉन्टैक्ट्स. कि like you know someone, you ask them to put you in touch with someone, or if they are working at a company, you ask them to put in touch with you with the CTO or CEO, and then you impress the hell out of them, like you do whatever you want. क्योंकि जो भी क्लाइंट हमारे कन्वर्ट हुए, दे लाइक मी एज अ पर्सन. And so I have spoken with other people, they follow the same strategy ki make them kind of like you, if not your product. Either you have like ऐसा crazy ass product जैसे Salesforce वगैरह के होते हैं, but that takes time to build that. तो इनिशियली में तो आप, if you can impress them, then they'll be like कि चलो ठीक है, लड़का कुछ करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ट्राई कर लेते हैं. Because for them, giving you a POC, like you do POCs first before you actually sell your product to them. So for them to give you a POC is like okay कि they can take a risk at you. तो ऐसे ही reach out करते हैं कि एक चीज, something which worked out in favor of us is one of our clients, they were very happy with our product. Like when we started, we were building it as a service for them, but eventually I interjected and I said कि ये हमारे पास product है, so why don't you use this product? And they loved that. They loved working with us. They loved the product. So they recommended other clients. So they were like कि ये एक और बंदा मुझसे पूछ रहा था, तो मैं उससे कनेक्ट करवा दूं क्या? तो I was like कि ठीक है. Those things are something which can happen. Like you can't force them to happen. But that could also happen like if you have personal connection and if you can like kind of build some personal relationship with your customers.
Got
So
it, got it.
before we move
Go
forward,
on.
I just wanted to again step back थोड़ा start कैसे किया journey का. I have some questions there. So one, what made you choose of creating this startup in India versus Singapore, given that every story that you hear, it's harder apparently to start a company in India than it is to create a company in Singapore. In fact, there are so many Indian startups jinka actual founding offices in Singapore. So what made you move there, and what were kind of the roadblocks, challenges in even starting a company? Forget banaya kya aur
It's
chalaya
not
kya.
it's not difficult to start a company in India or like in Singapore. Very honestly, I had no idea how to start a company in Singapore. Most of my friends, they were with me in my office. I knew not many people. For me, I was also thinking in terms of if I stay in India, I will like my savings will give me a better like runway
Yeah.
than being in Singapore. So for me, it was key. Let's go to Singapore. Let's build the company out of. Sorry, let's go to India. Let's build the company out of India. We can see where we want to get it incorporated.
Right.
So most of the startups we're talking about, Indian startups, many of them they start in India, then they incorporate in Singapore or Dubai or like Cayman Islands or British Virgin Islands. There are places which are tax haven. So
Right.
you incorporate there. What happens otherwise as well is like you can also be part of an incubator. So you can apply into something like Y Combinator. There are quite many in Singapore, like Iterative is one. And you once you are part of them, then they will ask you to register in that country. They'll help you do that.
Right.
But I think now things have become a little global, and people are like okay working with Indian companies, to be honest, as long as you have all the compliance needed in a B2B business. Then I think people are okay with that. Being in India also gives you an advantage that as a bootstrap company, which we are, you can still like pay like an okay salary. Like in India, if you pay someone 50,000 rupees a month, that's still fine. And like you can get decent people to work for you as long as they are like interested in what you're doing. 50,000 will get you by, to be honest. But in Singapore, if I pay someone $1,000, it'll be a very hard sell. Or in
Yeah.
US,
Yeah.
like I have a counterpart. Counterpart is like another company, another startup, which we are very good friends with. They are in London. They are probably making more money than us because of like they are getting paid in pounds, but they are not profitable because it's three founder company. They mostly use freelancers, but it's just that just to pay for their own salaries. And like London, you might have heard the news about London, that how expensive rents are and stuff.
Yeah.
So just to make the ends meet, they will use up all of their profits. In India, I can do that. I can like probably live at my parents' house, not pay rent. And whatever profit I'm making, however little, I can reinvest it or maybe use it to hire people.
Right.
So I prefer that freedom above other things, I
But
would
in,
say.
in terms of starting the company itself, registering it, getting things off the ground, you didn't necessarily face any kind of issues in India. It was
No.
things
It's
got
extremely
done.
easy nowadays. India, I would say it's much more easier in India than any other country. There are quite many startups those who help you with this. Razorpay, one way or the biggest startup, they have ventured into this field now. They help you incorporate company. It's pretty seamless now. It takes time, no doubt, and but there are people to help you out. And these are something which most of the companies do once they have started making money. Like that's when we got registered because you need to accept payments, so you need a registered entity. Otherwise, you have raised funds, then you get incorporated. So in both the cases, uh, these companies they will charge a little fee which you can very much afford. Like little fee as like it's somewhere around 5 to 6,000 rupees. So like $100, 100 Singapore dollars actually. That much, and they will assist you. So you don't have to like sweat for that. So
Right.
that way, I think it's easy,
And
and they even help you register in like Singapore or wherever you want.
so
It's not just India.
that's the reason I was asking, because I heard of a few companies in Singapore that do exactly the same thing, and they don't just help you incorporate, they will help you even with, again, some software as services in terms of your first few employees. You're not necessarily going to hire an HR to manage all of their
By the way,
payroll stuff.
Indian startup ecosystem is much more advanced in terms of the use or adoption of technology when
Yeah.
compared to Singapore startup ecosystem. Is like what I have seen in my personal experience.
So that was, again, so in terms of adopting technology, so you started, obviously the first one you had a co-founder as well. Was it just you two, or did you get a few more people on board? How did you decide कौन चाहिए, किस तरह का profile चाहिए? What is the problem I'm going to solve? How did that
So
come about?
तो प्रोफाइल ऐसा था कि इनिशियली सिंस वी वर बिल्डिंग अ मार्केट प्लेस, तो उसमें प्रोफाइल चाहिए था कि समवन हु कैन लुक एट द बिजनेस साइड एंड आई कैन लुक एट द टेक्नोलॉजी साइड. उसके बाद एंड लाइक ऑल्सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट दैट यू एंजॉय वर्किंग विद ईच अदर.
Yeah.
क्योंकि like it gets very tough. It's like it's very difficult to describe, but it gets very tough and very intense. So you should be able to like kind of have good time with that person because you will spend like a lot of time with that person. So like we used to live together, honestly, because there was like we could not find time to commute. So we started living together. Like he was based out of Bangalore, I was based in Delhi. He had moved to Delhi to work because it was not working being online and all that jazz. So in terms of skill set, we were just mindful about since it's not a technology heavy startup, it requires like a business arm. So a good complement or like good complementary skill set would be a business founder and a technology co-founder. Initially, we got a freelancer, like not, I would say not hired, but there was a freelancer who was working with us very closely to help us design things. Since it was a marketplace, so our skill set was I can design an app like end to end. Whether it's a web app or it's a mobile app, I can do all of that. I have been doing that for some time. So I was pretty confident कि कोई भी ऐप आएगा तो वो तो मैं बना लूंगा, ठीक है. उसके अंदर जो भी एडवांसमेंट्स होंगे अप टू अ सर्टेन लेवल आई कैन स्केल इट वेरी इजीली. We did the same thing for Facebook Marketplace, so I had like my fair share of learnings. बिजनेस में भी उस बंदे का पता था कि he has connections in India and like जो भी creators जो ecosystem है Instagram influencer वगैरह उसमें he was a creator himself, so he knew that struggle, so he was like कि ये वो संभाल लेगा. अब एक एंगल बचा था कि डिजाइन, क्योंकि whenever you're dealing with such B2C app you need appealing apps. तो we were like कि ठीक है डिजाइन के लिए हम एक फ्रीलांसर पकड़ लेते हैं. We can pay her like जो भी काम कराएंगे. तो हाँ, that's how we were actually managing through.
And your initial conversations with VCs, how did that start? Like, where do you find these guys who are interested in funding? Is that again through personal connections, or are there places you can apply?
So there are places. I applied into a program called Antler. Antler is a VC which is there in Singapore as well.
Yeah.
And I got in. So during that program, I got to meet few VCs. But I would say you can reach out to VCs, no doubt. They will they are good people, so they'll like respond back. You can easily talk to them. But I think the bare minimum you need to do is like if you put your LinkedIn profile, pay your job as like stealth, or like if you add like working on something stealth, then these VCs reach out to you. That's how they find leads for themselves.
They're also looking, and you're also looking. It's easy to connect something.
Oh yeah. They are hunting, definitely. Like they are more actively looking than you are.
Said that's how you start.
No, that's not how you start. That's not at all how you start.
I'm messing with Sid. Sid has been talking about I want to start something. So maybe the way to start is at least put stealth on your LinkedIn profile, and maybe there'll be
irrespective of stealth कर रहे नहीं कर रहे डाल दो एक शब्द.
This is the end of part 1 of the episode. We will continue next week with part 2. Thank you for listening in and stay tuned.